is the list of six. These are my six Royal Rumble matches. They may not particularly be yours, and this isn't a best or a worst. These are just my favorite ones. So, yeah, that's my opinion as a wrestling fan. And again, you may agree, you may not, but here we go. No particular order. We're going to start it off with 1998, not 1998, 1988's Royal Rumble. This is the very first one in a Cops Coliseum in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. On commentary, you have Vince McMahon and Jesse the Body Ventura. It works well. This is definitely 80s pro wrestling. The look, the crowd, the commentators. It's awesome. Now, on this one, there's only 20 wrestlers. It's not 30 like we see today, but they're coming in. There's no entrance music. There's no real, like to me, entrance music is kind of signal to the whole arena who's coming in. It's kind of like a wave. The wrestler will come out of the entrance and you'll hear the people just kind of like a cascading wave of cheering or booing through the arena because everybody is figuring out who it is. And it's awesome. It's a really cool thing to see. The cool thing, a really cool thing for me was the first two in the ring were Bret Hart and Tito Santana. So you have Bret Hart, who's young, very young at this time. He's with the Hart Foundation, so he's a heel. Tito Santana, which was pretty big in the 80s, is your face. So they started out like that, and it's a very clean cut through the whole match of faces and heels. You can tell by the crowd. The crowd plays a huge part in this Royal Rumble. Like Jake Roberts comes out and everybody's cheering, everybody's chanting for the DDT. Harley Race comes out and people are booing. And Harley and Jake have this great spot where it's kind of like a teeter-totter, where Harley is he's not really trapped, but he's sitting on the middle rope and he's kind of underneath the top rope. And Jake is just kind of punching him and he's doing like just a little teeter-totter whole kind of, oh man, he's going to fall out. Oh, he's going to come back in, and Jake punches him again. Really cool spot, memorable, especially when you watch it. Duggan comes out, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and the fans go crazy. He's obviously a favorite. You have other guys like One Man Gang, Hillbilly Jim, JYD, the Junkyard Dog. Fans go crazy for him too. So, I mean, I'm watching this. I mean, I know the ending, but I'm watching it again, and you don't truly know because there's not that standout guy, right? I believe Warrior was in it, but this wasn't like Ultimate Warrior with him and when he went up being the level of Hogan. Hogan wasn't in it. There just wasn't anybody to be like, oh man, that guy's definitely winning. So it was really cool to see that. It came down to the final four of One Man Gang, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Don Morocco, and Dino Bravo. And then we all know the story. Duggan ends up winning this 1988 Royal Rumble. And it's really cool to go back and watch it just because you see what it started out as. 20 wrestlers, no entrance music, no real cue for the fans of who's coming in. They did have a clock, which I thought was pretty neat, especially for that time in 88. And then you watch it today, 30 entrants. We pretty well know who's going to be in it before it even starts, but you have the entrance music, so fans just lose their mind, when you hear, which I'll talk about here in a little bit, is Stone Cold's music. You hear the glass shatter and people just erupt, just things like that. So that was the first one, 1988's Royal Rumble. So 2003, the Fleet Center in Boston, Massachusetts, the Royal Rumble. It's a good one. I thoroughly enjoyed watching this again. The reason I really liked watching this is the variety. This is the kind of the early 2000s, especially after the invasion angle, where you have a lot of WCW guys, you have a lot of ECW guys, you have the brand split at some point. You have a lot of variety. It's not the same people every year as far as your upper card to main event guys. So on commentary is King and JR, so a lot of us are very familiar listening to them. They do a great job. They always do. So they're doing this, and 1 and 2 this was surprising. I haven't seen this one in a long time, and I watch so much pro wrestling, I kind of forget who was where, when, all that stuff. But HBK, Shawn Michaels, and Chris Jericho were 1 and 2. This is, I believe, when after Shawn Michaels came back, because he had the shorter hair. So I know it's when he was out for a while and came back with that. And then this is heel Jericho. This is Jericho at probably one of, I think, is one of his best is when he is a heel, especially in the WWE. And it's awesome. And I'm watching this spot. Jericho is just beating down Shawn Michaels. It's not even a question. He starts it out with a low blow, kind of a bait and switch, because when Jericho's music hit, Christian comes out, Jericho runs up behind, hits Shawn Michaels with a low blow, and just starts beating him down. And then he ends up hitting him with a chair. So Michaels is busted open. And then he eliminates him like super fast. So I'm watching this and I'm not trying to give away all the spoilers of these things, but I mean, these are great reasons to watch because you don't expect it. And even watching these, I knew the winner of a lot of these Royal Rumbles. I just I didn't forget, but I just kind of put that away to where I'm just watching the show. And this was really a great way to start. I love the start of this Royal Rumble. So going in, like I said, the variety is pretty cool. You have Tajiri comes in, Chavo Guerrero. This is Thugonomics John Cena, that is my favorite John Cena of all his kind of changes throughout the years. I was a big fan of Thugonomics John Cena. And it just reminds you of how much somebody can change. Well, Jericho's the same way. That's not the same Jericho I saw in WCW. But so it's really cool to see this kind of stuff, a different angle for a different character. What was really neat was seeing sometimes tag teams or wrestlers you forget were there. 3 minute warning. Jamal and Rosie were in this match, and those dudes were awesome. They were big guys. They were great in the ring. They played a big part in this Royal Rumble. It was a lot of fun. So that all this stuff is happening, and HBK comes back. He's all bandaged up, from getting beat down. He attacks Jericho, gets Jericho eliminated, that kind of thing, which we see in a lot of Royal Rumbles. It's not uncommon. I mean, it's not like every time, but it does happen when somebody comes back and gets someone else eliminated. So that was pretty cool. It was great to kind of keep on that story. Batista, this is his very first Royal Rumble. It was really cool to see him. Brock Lesnar followed Batista. And this was what I thought this is what I really, really liked. They did this thing where Batista comes in, levels everybody, not really eliminating a lot of people, but just levels people. And then like immediately Brock Lesnar comes in and does the same thing. It's really neat to see just something like that back to back. And there was a great spot where Brock Lesnar hits Matt Hardy with an F5 to the outside. That's how he eliminated him. Awesome to see. And it's cool to see just back then that he was still doing that kind of stuff that he does now. So it's pretty neat. Number 30 was The Undertaker. So when you see The Undertaker come in, you think he's going to do it. It's The Undertaker, man. Who's going to stop him, right? Well, he does get stopped. He gets stopped when it comes down to Kane, Batista, Taker, and Lesnar. One spot before that, though, before the Final Four, was Kane gorilla presses RVD out. Impressive. Really awesome to see. The fans love RVD in these Royal Rumbles. So, yeah, the Final Four, Kane, Batista, Taker, and Lesnar. And then it comes down to, just the regular stuff. Somebody dumps somebody else out. Somebody eliminates one person, and then people take advantage. Brock Lesnar ends up dumping Taker out. Lesnar wins. It's really cool to see. I liked seeing that. I liked seeing Lesnar win this. This was a really fun Royal Rumble. So I highly suggest you check this one out. 2009 at the Joe Louis Arena, Detroit, Michigan. On commentary is JR and King again. We're always familiar. They call a great Rumble. There's a reason why they do a lot of these, because it just makes sense. So let's run through this real quick here. Rey Mysterio and John Morrison are 1 and 2. Rey Mysterio always does really well in Royal Rumbles. Fans are happy to see him, and he's great. And John Morrison's no slouch either. So they're getting through all this. And again, this one is just it's just a really good one. It seems to be really fluid. You have Randy Orton and Triple H. It's nice to see them kind of go at it at one point in this Rumble. There's a great spot where Randy Orton just is RKOing like 2 or 3 people. turns around and Triple H pedigrees him. It's a really just neat kind of change of momentum in that particular Rumble. But again, it's always seeing people you haven't seen in a Royal Rumble or seeing people you forget about. And there was Mark Henry was in this, Steven Regal or William Regal, depending on which which promotion you remember him from. And RVD comes out, and again, it's like a surprise. Like maybe he was injured or he wasn't supposed to be there. And the fans erupt for him again. And as I kind of stated earlier, fans really love seeing RVD in these. They go crazy, especially at this point in time. This is 2009, so still super popular. There was a cool spot where Ray almost gets eliminated, and he kind of walks on Miz and Morrison to get back into the ring. So it's really neat. It's kind of like how Kofi Kingston does a bunch of his stuff now, and it was really cool to see that. One thing was the ring in this one. You always get in a Royal Rumble, there'll be one or two spots where somebody clears the ring out. So there's only like maybe 2 or 3 people left in the ring, and then, kind of fills back up. This one constantly was full. So you never really knew who was going to really get eliminated next. And there wasn't like just a bunch. Every now and then a cluster, like 2 or 3 and stuff like that. But when Kane comes down, Kane is just a monster in Royal Rumbles. He's always been great in them. He has like the most eliminations in history or something like that. So he's in there. And this next spot is why I love this Royal Rumble so much. Number 28, Santino Marella comes down. He does his march down to the ring, right? And his music's still playing. He hops in, and Kane immediately clotheslines him out for the fastest elimination in Royal Rumble history. I just really love it. Santino is so funny. He's so entertaining. And I'm sure you guys have seen clips kind of floating around this time of year of him talking about this. It's a great story. So that is my like highlight of this whole Royal Rumble, just because I love the entertainment aspect of it. And it only lasted like 2 seconds. But Legacy ends up teaming up, and it's them and Triple H. So it's Ted DiBiase Jr., Cody Rhodes, and Randy Orton against Triple H. Those are the final 4 in this one. And for just a second, you think maybe Triple H is going to get the upper hand and end up winning this Royal Rumble. But, it's 3-on-1. He just can't handle that much adversity in the Rumble. So Randy Orton ends up getting the win. And for these, it's not about who wins them for me. Some of them they are. There is one particular, well, there's 2 of them that are actually, I really like them because of who won. But it's really just, it's the show for me. It's the entertainment. It's the cool little spots like the Santino spot. So the 2009 Royal Rumble is definitely one to check out. 2007 San Antonio, Texas at the AT&T Center. On commentary, you got JBL, The King, and Michael Cole. Not a bad combination. It worked well with the Rumble. And there wasn't anything that didn't make sense, or it wasn't like a lull in commentary. They were a nice team to do it. This is one that surprised me on who number 1 is, and it's Ric Flair. And this is 2007. So he's a little bit older, So it's Ric Flair and Fit Finlay are 1 and 2. And this one of the reasons I liked this one so well or so much was the look. The stage, I'm a big looks guy. Like, visually, the stage looked great. And I think that brings so much more to a show. It's not so much now. I mean, you'll see it sometimes, but a lot of times anymore, it's just the screens. And I've talked about a little bit about that before. But the stage looked fantastic. And that was one of the reasons I really liked it, just because had that different feel to it because of the different look. And this was another one of those that had a really great variety of talent. This was where the brand split was of Raw, SmackDown, and ECW. So you have Sabu, you have Tommy Dreamer, Kane's in there, Edge, and who else we got? There's the Great Khali ends up coming in there. It's a really great just variety, like I was saying, of talent. And there's at one point, Kane ends up getting a lot of big spots, I think, in Royal Rumbles. He ends up choke slamming Sabu outside to eliminate him, but through a table. Really cool spot, great visually. So that's a reason I like this stuff too. And so you get those really cool moments like that. And then you have the tag team champs, Randy Orton and Edge at this time, rated RKO. They're teaming up. They're doing great. You don't know if they're going to turn on each other at some point. So it's awesome, right? It's just a really cool, because it's always every man for himself. And when you see tag teams team up, you don't really know if they're going to turn on each other. But with this team, particularly Edge and Randy Orton, that that feeling is there that they might turn on each other. So it's really fun to watch throughout the Royal Rumble. And again, at number 30, The Undertaker comes in, and his entrance is, he does have him and Kane have really cool entrances anyway. Before the Royal Rumble, they still turned out the lights. So you'll hear their gong and then, or the bell, whatever, and the lights come down, and you realize they're still in the ring trying to do their thing. And then the Undertaker shows up. So it's a really cool entrance. The crowd goes crazy for this one. And then he squares off against the Great Khali. So at this point, the Great Khali is just a wrecking ball through the Royal Rumble. So he squares off against Khali. He ends up eliminated him. So he's kind of the hero right there at that point of it, because nobody was going to eliminate the Great Khali at this time. So the last four, it comes down to Orton, HBK, Edge, and Undertaker. So this one ends up being a really good final four. Then it ends up being, it's not real quick from the final four to the whoever wins it. So it ends up being Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, and they have a great back and forth. A lot of those really close moments of, oh, he's going to go over. Oh, he's going to eliminate The Undertaker. Oh, Shawn Michaels is going to get, it's really good at that for this match. And it ends up Undertaker gets the win. He wins the Royal Rumble. And I believe this goes on to where he goes against Batista, I think, for WrestleMania that year. And this is a really great shot of him, of The Undertaker. Is everybody does the cheesy point at the WrestleMania sign, right? But for The Undertaker, the lights, they turn that bluish purple. He gets down on his knee and does his, his demon thing or whatever, or possession thing. And they just have a great shot of him in the ring and the WrestleMania sign over the top of his shoulder. It's really great. I highly suggest you check this one out. So yeah, Royal Rumble 2007. 1997, San Antonio, Texas, at the Alamo Dome. I am a huge fan of this one. This is one that there is, the main event is actually Shawn Michaels and Psycho Sid. It's an awesome main event. And there's a lot that happens after this Royal Rumble between here and WrestleMania. But I really like this one because you have your same commentary of King, JR, and Vince is a part of this one. And all three of them work really well with each other for this Royal Rumble. Now, it starts off with the Nation of Domination's Crush and Ahmed Johnson. So that's 1 and 2. So it ends up being, I'm not going to say it's a terrible start because it's really not, but it's not a great start, right? I mean, you're still pushing that storyline of Ahmed Johnson against the Nation of Domination. Farouk does get involved. That's how he gets eliminated. And Austin's number 4. This isn't peak Austin, but we're getting there. You know what I mean? I don't want to say fans are just totally on board yet, but he's still kind of a heel. We're still not to that gray area of heels and faces, but he's definitely climbing the mountain at this point. So he's number 4. He starts just eliminating people left and right. He gets to where he's by himself in the ring. And one of my favorite spots in this is when he climbs up to the turnbuckle. He's sitting on the top turnbuckle and he looks at his wrist, at his watch, waiting for the next guy. Everybody recognizes that picture. Everybody knows that's from a Royal Rumble. They may not know what year, but they know that's from Royal Rumble. So it's really cool to see that. That's one of the reasons that made it my favorites. What's really awesome in this one too is you get a lot of luchadors from Mexico's AAA, and they're, it's good. It's definitely good, especially being in San Antonio. Those names were probably more recognizable. I recognized a few but definitely I didn't know all of them. But it was a nice little mix, right? It was a cool kind of inner promotion working together kind of thing, even back in the 90s. So it was totally fine. And then it gets to be where Austin is by himself again. Okay. And this is another reason. This is really just the story from these two guys. Austin's by himself, and then Bret Hart's music hits. This is Bret's return, I believe, from an injury. So he hits, his music hits, and Austin's reaction in the ring is awesome. It's fantastic. It's what makes this Royal Rumble really fun to watch. And then you have this, I love these short eliminations. So the commentary is doing their thing, and the crowd's counting down for the next guy to come in. King Jerry Lawler's music hits, or Jerry the King Lawler. I don't know why I said it backwards, but his music hits, and he's taking off his headphones, he's taking off his jacket, he climbs into the ring, and then he takes a few punches and he gets eliminated. He comes right back out and he sits down back on commentary. It's hilarious. It's up there with the Santino Marella spot. And I just find it so funny. Again, I just love the entertainment part of the Royal Rumble, and that is definitely entertaining to me. You do have guys in it like the fake Razor and the fake Diesel. It is what it is. They tried. WWE wanted to keep those names synonymous with WWE, and I get it. They were huge names before Scott Hall and Kevin Nash left, and they just wanted to keep trying again. I just feel bad for someone like Glenn Jacobs, which in turn becomes Kane and has a great career. We all know him. He's a Hall of Famer. He's one of the best. But I didn't like the fake Razor and the fake Diesel thing, and I don't think a lot of people did. But yeah, so I mean, then it comes down to just this weird spot of Undertaker, Vader, Bret Hart, and Austin. So this is the final four, and then Hart eliminates Steve Austin, but the rest didn't see it because Terry Funk and Mankind are fighting on the other side. So Austin sneaks back in. He eliminates uh, the Undertaker and Bret Hart, and Vader gets eliminated somewhere in there too. So somehow Austin wins this Royal Rumble. So now you got controversy leading to WrestleMania. It's great. It's awesome. It's smart. But then between all that, this is where Shawn Michaels lost his smile. So that threw a wrench in everything. So you have these in your houses of like a fatal four ways and stuff like that, still trying to build a story, even though to me, I mean, I wasn't there, but to me, that story kind of got derailed a little bit with Shawn Michaels leaving. So yeah, that's a good one. 1997's Royal Rumble. 1992 Royal Rumble where was this at? This was in Albany, New York, I think. Anyway, 1 and 2 were the British Bulldog and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. The Bulldog at this point had a lot of history in Royal Rumbles. He's always a pretty good, or maybe I don't think it was this one. Maybe it's the next one. The British Bulldog, he's kind of like Kane. I always thought he did really well in the Royal Rumbles. You have Flair ends up coming in at number 3, which Bulldog eliminated DiBiase pretty quick. So Flair comes in at number 3, and it's an empty ring with Flair at one point and then Piper comes in. So Piper comes in and the fans love it. Flair's begging him, not to beat on him anymore. Piper's brawling him, and it's just great. It's just a really cool spot. It's very entertaining. Jake Roberts comes in. The fans, they love it. They like what they're seeing. Commentary is Bobby the Brain Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon, which is fantastic. If you've never listened to those two on commentary, you should definitely give them a check there. So fans end up just losing their minds when Hulk Hogan comes in. This is Hulkamania, brother. So it's really, you think he's going to win. And this one is for the title. This one, it's not somebody gets a match at WrestleMania. This is for the WWF title at that time. Your last 4 come around to be Savage, Sid, Hogan, and Flair. Savage gets eliminated. Sid tosses Hogan out. And this is when Hogan does something very heelish, if you will. and he reaches up, he grabs Sid's arm, giving Flair a little bit of help. So Flair pops up and pushes Sid over the top, eliminating Sid Justice at this time. And this led to one of my favorite promos in wrestling. It's short, it's sweet, but is to me is one of Flair's best promos, and was the "With a Tear in My Eye" promo. Definitely check out all that stuff. And what's really great about that promo is not just Flair and Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mr. Perfect, but in the middle of this, Mean Gene looks right off camera and yells at somebody to put a cigarette out. It's so great. This is one of my favorite Royal Rumbles. You should definitely check it out too. The 1992 Royal Rumble. Remember to check out all of my content on Instagram or YouTube at Wrestleverse.